When I jumped off the bus, once again returning to my childhood hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan, I don't know, it felt like I had changed a little bit. I think one of the big things was that my grandma was no longer here, and that made a significant difference in the quality of my life, because I could just finally know that she wasn't sitting in that little house all alone, waiting on the occasional visit of the bishop. And number two, I think the previous year down in Columbus, I didn't have access to a computer. So I wasn't able to write, I wasn't able to do my journal. Here's a fun story. I have a weird genetic thing. It's a quirk. That's what I'm calling it, okay? Where the palms of my hands get real sweaty, like just dripping sweaty. So I think one of my aunts, she also has this genetic thing. And when I was a kid, when I'd have to take a test at school, I would try to sneak a folded piece of 8.5 by 11. It was blank, just so I could rest my hand on top of it while I was scribbling on my test. So one time, my teacher, he saw this and he came walking right up to my desk and he said, "Bishop, are you cheating? What's up with that?" So he grabbed this extra sheet of blank 8.5 by 11 and he held it up, and it was just soaking wet, like a big old puddle. It looked like a used piece of toilet paper. He flipped it over a couple times trying to understand, and then he walked and he dropped it into the garbage. And I continued with my test, but oh my gosh. That test was so soggy and wet by the time I turned it in, I don't think he could see any of the answers that I had scribbled with my little pencil. It had all worn off. So I got that test back a couple days later and he had given me an A. I don't know, it's karma. So yeah, I felt like a different kind of bishop. And I got off the bus. I was more familiar with the bus system now. I knew about things like layovers. I knew where the closest hotel, the cheapest hotel in Detroit, Michigan. So when I did have a layover, I could hail a taxi, ride over to the hotel, spend my 6 or 8 hours, sleep. And then in the morning, I'd wake myself up and then get back to the bus station to catch the bus. And I'd look around at the bus station and I'd see all these other people curled up on the floor, laying on the metal benches. And, I just experience points. So I called up Goofy and my friend Barb, and I said, "Hey, I'm back. Can you come get me?" And he said, "Okay." So he jumped in his car and he came and got me. He brought me to the place they were staying. It was kind of a hippie house. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But first, now that I'd returned, if I was going to stay, I guess I had some priorities, some things I had to take care of real quick, I had to go see my dad. It had been a long time, almost 3 years, but we hadn't talked much, and I had to face him. I couldn't keep running. So I went to his house and I stood in his driveway with him and I said, "Dad, I'm really sorry for what happened. I wish I could have done some stuff different, but at the time I was pretty stressed. I explained some stuff about Mandy." My dad, he didn't want to understand, I don't think. He just wanted to be upset, and I guess he had that right, He said, "You stole from my mother. How would you feel, Bishop, if I stole from your mother?" And I said, "Yeah, I know, I get that, I'm never gonna steal again. I learned my lesson the hard way. It's just, this is what happened." I said, "I'm sorry." He said, "Well, during this time, when my mother really needed you, you bailed, you left. And not only did you leave, but you stole. Like, how can I forgive that?" I said, "Dad, I don't get it, man. Like, why did I have to take care of her? Why did you move our family to Grand Rapids after your father died?" And I think that one stung, because I was reminding my dad that he had not only lost his mother, but he had also lost his father. So we bumped heads for a bit because that's what Aries does. And my dad and I, we're both the ram. And the ram sort of bumps each other. We do this headbutt thing. And at one point, it stops being fun because the other person overpowers the weaker person, or one person gives up. I don't know. We headbutted. And in the end, I said, look, Dad, I'm about to leave, and I will never contact you again. I will never talk to you again. I will never see you again. Is that what you want? And he looked down for a bit, and then he looked up, and he said, you know, okay, Bishop. Okay. I'm going to try to let it go. And I said, thanks, Dad. By the way, Dad, I need a favor. I'm back in town. I don't have any money. I don't have a job. I need to borrow the car. Is the family van still running? My dad had this old, it was a family van, you know. We drove it all the way to Florida. We went on vacations. We went camping. And yeah, there it was in the driveway. He says, yeah, it still runs, kind of. I said, well, hey, are you still traveling for work? You know, you're gone 5 days a week? He says, yeah. Is there any way I can borrow this piece of shit van, Dad? He says, oh my gosh, Bishop. Is this why you came to see me? I said, no, seriously, I wanted to apologize. But now that that's good, I just need to borrow a van for a little bit. I tried to tell him about Barb's situation, but you know. Yeah. Okay, so I totally forgot this part. Sometimes that happens. I was trying to tell that without my computer to like write about my life, it just made me so much less angsty. Is that a word? It's kind of like angst, but with the E at the end. So I don't know, you know, sitting in a small room, nothing but books and music, it just sort of took me out of the past. It took me away from that, you know. I think that was really helpful because it brought me back to more in the moment, you know, more present. And I don't know, I just sort of felt different. The other thing I had to do was my mom, she had told me that she had found a new boyfriend and she was going to move in with him. And my childhood home was up for sale. And I didn't like that at all. Like, this was supposed to be the one constant in my life, you know. I had been in this house since I was 5 years old. So many memories, you know. But my mom and my little brother, they had taken apart a lot of the backyard, a lot of the memories. They took down my dad's shed that he built himself. They took down the pool, the deck, the whole backyard. It just looked different. And I guess I was crushed. I begged her. I said, Mom, please don't. But it was time. My mom, she just needed to get away. She needed a new start. And looking back, I guess I don't blame her. It was just hard because I would never be able to go into that house again, you know? It was going to be gone forever. So, yeah. What are you doing? There's a bug on me. So I went to my mom's. I gathered up the last little bits of my possessions that were in the basement. Stuff I had never moved into my house with Amanda. So, I don't know, just things, old stuff from my childhood. But there was something else that I just couldn't leave behind. So, guys, I didn't want somebody else, you know, in that house, their little kid out in the backyard digging a hole so that he could bury his G.I. Joe figures. Like, I couldn't risk that. So I grabbed a shovel and I dug up the bodies of my dog and my cat. It was not fun. I think I scooped about 2 scoops of earth with the shovel, and then I started digging by hand. And I found the black garbage bag that my dog and my cat had been buried in. And I scooped it up out of the earth. I lifted it with my bare hands, and I tried my best not to think about it. They had been buried for like 3 years, more than 3 years. I just couldn't leave him behind. I don't know. Guys, a lot of my life, my decisions, they didn't make a lot of sense. But again, that's what happens when there's a lot of weed involved, you know, even with the less angst. So I brought the bag with the bodies of my dog and my cat to my dad's house. And I went in his backyard and I dug a deep, deep hole, as deep as I could, you know. And I put my dog and my cat back in the ground. And I was so sorry, I didn't mean to disturb them. It's just how it goes sometimes, you know. Okay, I am in a place called the West Side, and you have to say it with a little bit of flair. It's the West Side. And I can't stay down here for too long because this is not a real great part of town, but I did want to show you guys the hippie house. So, right about here, just the upstairs, that was the hippie house that my friends Goof and Barb, I don't know, I can explain in a little bit. Like I said, this can be a tricky spot. So, yeah. I'll have to explain about the West Side also. But you know what? The place is still standing, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, right there. And then right across the street, Barb and Goof had a friend. Her name was Wendy. But I'll get to all that in a minute. People start seeing a long-haired white guy walking around the West Side with a camera. They get a little nervous. I don't know if you've noticed, but the world is becoming kind of a crazy spot. So more in a minute, okay? Okay. All right, I am a little bit safer now. I am a little bit nervous to go down to the West Side. That's why my video here has been a little bit discombobulated. I'm all out of order. I was trying to say a while back that not having a computer to type on, like I hate writing by hand. It's horrible, I hate it. It's so archaic to hold this little pen or this little pencil in your hand and scribble on paper. And again, my hands, you know. So when the typewriter was invented, oh my gosh, I fell in love. And I was typing at a real fast, anyway, the West Side, let's see. Let's do some background, why not? So the city of Grand Rapids, where I am and where I've lived for most of my life, is built around the Grand River. If you've seen my videos, I think it was 3 or 4 of them ago, I showed you guys the Grand River. So the city, if you took like a cross section or like a slice, it kind of looks like a V, you know, with the Grand River being at the bottom. Maybe it's not really a true V, it's more flat, I don't know, but the river separates the east part of Grand Rapids, the east side, with the west side. And what happened a long time ago was that the people that occupied the west side, they were more poor, a lot of immigrants, a lot of, you know, the poor people. I don't know how else to say it. And the people that inhabited the east side were the more wealthy people. They had the bigger houses, the nicer houses, the better hospital and schools. So somehow, to put pride into their part of the city, the people of the west side came up with this thing called, you know, you put emphasis on it, right? It's the west side. And the other side, the East Grand Rapids, well, they didn't need any spice to their name. They actually were so proud that they shortened their name. They just said, we're gonna call ourselves the EGR. It stands for East Grand Rapids. Take that, West Siders. So there was some, you know, they didn't like each other much. Anyway, the hippie house where I found myself with Barb and Goof, let's see. So this was, I don't know, 99. These weren't the hippies from the 70s, okay? These were like modern hippies. And they still had the dreadlocks and the patchouli, the hemp oil, but they also knew how to network. And maybe this is something that the old hippies did too. I don't know, but the hippies in my friend group were very good at networking. And they would band together and they would find a rental property that didn't require much. And it was kind of like on the map, you know? So Grand Rapids had some hippie houses. A lot of them traveled out west. Colorado, as soon as the marijuana became legal, a whole bunch of hippies went to Colorado. And then they were out in a place called Bend, Oregon, which I hear is really cool. So between Bend, Oregon and Grand Rapids, there were all these little houses that you could stop at, say hi to your friends, your fellow travelers, and just crash on the couch, you know? Or if it was full, you would throw a tent in the backyard. And it was pretty cool, you know? Everybody knew everybody, and if you wanted to stay in a hippie house, you just paid part of the rent, you know? So what happened with Barb and Goof's hippie house is that during the summer of '99, all their hippie friends left, like just up and left. Said, hey, we're gonna go out west, do you wanna come? And I don't know why Barb and Goof didn't wanna come. They stayed behind. So they couldn't afford to pay the rent. It was just Goofy. I think he was doing like a landscaping job. Barb couldn't get a job. So when I saw the place, oh my gosh, you guys, I kind of understood why Barb had to call me when I was in Columbus and say, hey Bishop, have you got any extra money you could send us? This house was trashed. Like, nobody had done the dishes in 6 months. Nobody had taken the trash out in 3 months. They had a stray cat that had babies. So 4 little kittens running around. 4 kittens plus a mama. And Barb and Goof also found a dog. And it was not a small dog. We're talking, this was pretty sizable dog. They named him River because as soon as they brought him to this hippie house, the first thing that dog did was he peed a hole. So I don't know, I fell in love with River and I was like, you know what? I had a dog once, I had a cat once, I know how to do this. I got to work and I just started cleaning, took the trash out, you know, changed the cat litter box. It was overflowing, you guys. It was horrible. I took care of River and I don't know, I guess I put down roots, as temporary as it was, you know. So Barb and Goof were going to be not really evicted because they had no agreement with the original landlord. That was with some different hippie who had left long ago. So they were going to be asked politely to leave. And if the landlord saw the state of that hippie house, he might have had a problem with just asking politely. I don't know for sure, but it was stressful for them because no new hippies were coming and the old hippies had left and it was time to find a new place to crash, you know? So I think it felt a lot like the time right before that they had to lose the apartment, the original apartment where I met Mandy. I don't know, it was just not a good situation, you know? So I realized the temporary aspect of this and I knew I wanted something of a contingency plan. So I would drop my dad off at the airport on like a Sunday and then I would, you know, he would let me know, he would call me and say, hey, I need you to come pick me up on Friday. So during that time I had a car or the family van and I could drive, you know, to the grocery store. I could pick up garbage bags, bleach, a mop. Guys, this place was filthy. And on one of those times out, I went and I looked up an old friend. Her name was Lisa. Here's Lisa. She and I had a very fun, close relationship back in my art class at high school. And Lisa knew all about Amanda. She knew about my time in the mental institution. She knew about my family life. Lisa and I sat right next to each other and we talked a lot. I think we were there in that same art class for 2 years in a row. So I knocked on her door and I said, "Hi, stranger." I hadn't seen her in 5 years. I don't know. Hadn't talked to her. Surprise! It's Bishop. I'm here. So we got to talking and I told her, you know, some of my life story. And I said, "Look, I'm back in Grand Rapids for a little bit. You know, I was just wondering if you'd want a friend. I don't have a job. I don't have a car. This is my dad's piece of shit van." I said, "Lisa, do you have a boyfriend?" She says, "No." "Well, I happen to not have a girlfriend, so if you want, do you want to do this thing, you know?" We had some chemistry, okay? It was not the love. Lisa is a Libra. Libra is the scales, and it's an air sign. So Aries fire can sometimes be good with air signs, like Gemini, real good with Gemini, but Libra, not so much. So Lisa and I had an arrangement, or what do they call it nowadays? A situationship. Lisa had a car and a job, and I wanted some form of backup in case I had to be asked to leave Barb and Goof's place also. And, you know, when I didn't have my dad's vehicle on the weekends, Lisa was somebody I could call, and she would come pick me up, and we would, I don't know, it had become a little different. I was starting to realize that I wasn't very good at relationships. I was probably bad, like I'd said before, I was bad at love. So to me, Lisa just represented a sense of security. You know, if something bad happens to Bishop, I can call her. She might come to my rescue. I don't know. No promises. Yeah, I admit, in the beginning, I got a little bit distracted. You know, there was a lot of cleaning, there was pets, there was some smoking, and I was with my friends, you know, so my priorities got a little bit mixed up. But at some point, I said, "Okay, Barb, tell me everything." She says, "Well, I don't know, Bishop, you know, what do you want to know?" "Barb, what happened to your mom?" "Well, she passed away." "Yep, so what happened to your inheritance?" She says, "Well, it's all stuck in this trust fund. I can't touch it." "Okay, I understand why your mom would have done that. But Barb, like, have you gone to this bank? Have you talked to someone?" She says, "No." "Barb, if you explain some stuff, you're homeless, you don't have a job, you don't have a high school education, you don't have a driver's license, you don't have a car. In all reality, you might not make it to your 25th birthday. Do you think that's what your mom would have wanted?" She says, no. So I said, "You know what? You've got to find this bank, Barb. You've got to find this bank, or you've got to talk to somebody, you know, and explain. So I can bring you there, you know, let's do this. Let's do the homework." So Barb said, "Okay." And she, I don't know, she made some phone calls. One night we had a visitor. It was Mandy, and I hadn't seen her in quite some time, many years. Oh my gosh, did she look good. I just wanted to wrap my arms around her, you know, and tell her I still loved her and ask her how she had been. She looked good. Unfortunately, Mandy had come with a motive, and after smoking with us, sitting right in front of me, right beside Barb and Goof, she looked at them and she said, "You know, Bishop's a thief, right? He's gonna steal from you." And I guess word traveled pretty fast. Mandy's aunt and uncle down in Columbus, they heard what happened with Brother Bill, and you know, I was labeled a thief. I just sort of held up my hands. I shrugged, you know, what could I say? Because Barb and Goof knew that I had stolen from my grandma, and there was no way to prove or disprove what happened with Brother Bill. But Barb kind of looked at Mandy and said, "Girl, look around. Like, I have nothing to steal. Nothing. There's nothing here. I have nothing in my pockets. Goof has nothing. In fact, you came to us and Goof smoked with you. So," Mandy says, "Okay, but you've been warned." It broke my heart a little bit, but I guess I understood, you know? I don't know. In the following days, I brought Barb to her bank, into the skyscraper, downtown Grand Rapids, and I couldn't go in and talk with her because I wasn't her lawyer. I wasn't representing her, and I wasn't related. But I had coached her, I had told her what to say. I said, Barb, you got this, just be honest. So she went off and she talked to her banker. So I sat there and waited, you know. I think it was about 45 minutes that Barb was in there talking to her banker. And when she came out, I don't know, it looked like she'd been crying, like crying a lot. And I'd never really seen Barb this way, you know. She was always the happy, smiling, bubbly blonde, and I gave her a big hug. I said, are you all right? She said, yeah. She said, you know, Bishop, it was just really hard. My life has been so difficult, and I just try to hide it. So talking to a stranger about my situation, you know? Yeah. I said, did you explain everything? She says, yep. Did you get this guy's name, his number? Yep. Well, what did he say, you know? I'm like, don't leave me hanging. She says, well, he's got to talk about it. He's got to talk to some people. He's got to do some stuff. And he's going to get back to me. Okay, mission accomplished, you know? You tried your best, right? So I don't know, I think about a week had gone by. We were still in the apartment. Things were tense. I guess that's the best way I can say it. Goofy would go to work. He did landscaping. It was hard labor, you know. He would come home at like 4 or 5 o'clock and I would have the house mostly cleaned. He'd say, where's Barb? Oh, she's across the street. Guys, remember I showed you across the street was a lady named Wendy. Wendy, in the West Side, Wendy was the weed dealer, but it wasn't the good weed like the hippies had. It was like the brown weed, the cheap stuff. And remember, this is back when it was still illegal. So having a weed dealer right across the street, I don't know. Barb wasn't very school smart. She didn't have any education. But the smarts that Barb did have, like she could charm you, she could talk to strangers, she would laugh and smile. Hey, can I have a cigarette? Can I smoke with you? And she would make friends no matter where she went. She was great at that. There were even times when she would bring me across the street to meet Wendy. And she'd be like, hey, this is my friend Bishop. He's cool. And that's all it would take. Like, that sentence. It was something I had lacked in Columbus because I had no one to introduce me, you know? But if Barb said, he's cool. So I got to know Wendy. And I don't know, she was cool. She was an older lady. But Goofy would go across the street after work and Barb would come back and they'd be arguing. Goofy, what was I supposed to do? You didn't leave me any money. We spent it all on weed, remember? Well, how come Bishop didn't go get food? Well, he doesn't have any money either. We're all poor. And I would say, Goof, I'm sorry, man. I don't have any money. I'm gonna look for a job. It's gonna be okay. I don't know. I noticed that things were not good, you know? Across the street, Wendy, the older woman, she had 2 kids. One was an older guy, about my age, so, you know, 24, 23. His name was Nick. Nick was also an Aries, so he and I, very cool, very easy. Nick had a little sister, her name was Brandy. So Brandy was about the same age as Barb, and they were friends. So when Goofy and Barb would come back to the hippie house late at night, having their argument, Barb would be like, you know what? I don't want to be here. I'm going to go across the street. I'm going to go hang out with people that like me. And oh my gosh, Goofy would get so mad. You know, I don't blame him. He wanted food. He came home from work. He wanted his woman, his food, his friend, some weed. And here was none of that. And in fact, it felt like it was pushing Barb even further away, you know? I don't know. About a week later, Barb had to go see her banker once again. And she came out of that meeting looking a little bit different. She said, Bishop, they're gonna help me. They're gonna help me. Bishop, you're not gonna believe this. I said, what? What happened? Tell me. She says, they're gonna give me an allowance, you know, part of my trust fund. They're gonna let me have some of it. They're gonna help me buy a house, Bishop. I'm supposed to go house shopping. They're gonna help me get my driver's license. They want me to get my GED at school. All this stuff, Bishop. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. You did it. You did it, girl. I'm so proud of you. I said, what do you think it was? She said, you know what it was? The funniest thing. He asked me if I was on birth control. And I said, no, of course not. How am I supposed to be on birth control? Apparently, there's this thing where if you are pregnant and you have to file for Medicaid or apply for state funds, state benefits, because you're an unemployed single woman, well, that becomes a problem. Because if you reveal that you have a trust fund with $500,000 in it, and you're asking the state of Michigan to help you pay for the baby, somebody looks bad. And that somebody happened to be the banker that Barb had a little business card, a little name, a little phone number. So I was like, you're kidding me. After all of this, all you had to tell him was that you didn't have birth control? Oh my gosh. Barb, we're going house shopping. We're gonna go house shopping. You did it. Neither Barb nor I had ever been house shopping before. Like, how does one do it? You know, we had no coach, no idea of what to do. But I think it's fair to say that Barb was adequately motivated. She wanted something now. So we might have looked at 2 or 3, maybe even 4. But she found one, and it was big. 4 bedrooms, fully finished basement. It had a swimming pool in the backyard, you know? So this is the one she picked out. Had a fence, you know? Fenced in backyard so that River could run around. Of course we had to bring River. And the 5 cats. So, I don't know, she scribbled down the address. She called her banker. She said, hey, this is the one I want, you know? And it happened rather quickly. I was surprised. I had no idea. But again, motivated, huh? On the night that Barb left, I think she really wanted to just disappear, you know? I don't think she wanted the confrontation. I don't think she wanted to talk to Goofy at all, but it was hard to keep a secret, you know? So Goofy got pretty angry, like pretty angry. Us fire signs, we have the passion, we also have the anger. Goofy, he lost it. You know, here was this woman that he loved, that he had taken care of for like the previous, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. He provided for her, you know? He made sure she was okay. And now, when Barb was finally able, you know, to take care of Goofy, she bailed on him. And Goofy got really mad. He smashed furniture, he kicked holes in the walls. I was pretty scared, you know? So I jumped in my dad's van and I went to Barb's new house. And I said, hey, you know, are we still good? Like, The plan was that I was going to come live with you and help you run your household and take care of the dog and the cats and the trash and all this stuff, you know. Am I still good? I was going to rent a room, you know. She says, I don't know, Bishop. I guess. Okay, you did help me. I discovered that Nick, Wendy's son Nick, that had been visiting across the street many, many times, Barb and Nick had a thing going on. And Nick was going to live with Barb. And, you know, I was cool with that. I was like, hey, we're both Aries. We can both talk. We're both honest. You know, like I said, he and I, we were pretty good, pretty fast. It felt weird because I had been friends with Goofy for a long time, you know, even before I knew Barb. But when I asked Barb, I said, hey girl, what happened, you know? She said, Bishop, I don't know. He was such a cool guy in the beginning, you know? We were so happy and so loving, and over time, it just soured, and it just became really difficult to love him. And I was like, oh, yeah, I recently heard that from Mandy. Okay, I get it. What does this woman, her name is Adele, how does she say it? Sometimes it lasts in love and sometimes it hurts instead. So it hurt, but I was in a new house. Barb was in a new house. It was like she had won the lottery, you know. Barb came from a very poor beginning. She didn't have much, you know, with her dad in jail and her mom in bed. To have this big house now, they were providing her an allowance. So every month she got a certain amount of money. They were gonna supply a shopping trip so she could get a bed, furniture, dresser, TV, entertainment center. They were providing her with like the GED, the schooling. She was gonna get her driver's license. Her life had changed, you know, like, and the most important part, according to the banker, was that she was gonna get on birth control. Yay! So everybody was kind of happy, you know. Nick was happy. Nick and Barb, they were good together. And I was happy. I was taking care of pets. I was living with friends again. And it didn't matter that I would give Barb, you know, $100 a month or $200 or whatever it was. I was just happy to be there, you know, to be with my friends. I asked Nick, I was like, hey man, you know, where are you working? Are they hiring? He says, yeah, actually, I could probably get you a job. You might not like it. It's hard, it's labor. I said, you know what? I'm good, let me at it. So I went to work with Nick. He worked at a door production factory. So I don't know if you guys have furniture makers where you live, but in West Michigan, furniture was a big deal. Automotive was the bigger deal. But because we had so much wood and so much trees, we would make furniture. So there was a company, it was called Steelcase. And Steelcase had all the office furniture, the desks, the chairs. The company that I was working for with Nick, we made office doors. And we're talking the big, fancy, heavy office doors made of real wood. It's got the big window in the center. And I don't know, each door, it probably weighed 60 pounds. So my job was to pick up a door and lay it flat on a drill press. And then I would pull this lever and it would drill a hole for the door handle to go. And then I would take that door, put it back on a cart and grab another door. Drill, cart, drill, and over all day. My arm muscles got huge. It was hard work, but no drug test. Nick and I would smoke. A lot of people there would smoke. And we'd go home and we'd hang out, you know, and smoke some more and play video games. I don't know. My life was pretty cool. It was New Year's. It was 2000, you know, the Y2K. It didn't actually happen, guys, just so you know. We were all scared for nothing. But the Y2K, I basically had a whole new life. I was in Grand Rapids in Michigan, new job. My mom managed to find me another car. I don't know how she kept doing it. I know that I had an aunt and uncle who sort of just went through cars rather quickly. So whenever they had an old one or were buying a new one, they would ask my mom, hey, Do you know anybody that wants a used car? The previous car that my mom had gotten me was a 1984 Honda Civic. It was the one with the windshield wipers that didn't work. This next car was a 1991 Mercury Tracer. Guys, I'll show them to you. Here's Honda Civic. Here's Mercury Tracer. What is that, 7 years later? They were both about the same color. So I jumped right in. This one had windshield wipers that worked. I was a happy camper. My girlfriend, Lisa, and I don't know. There was not a lot of magic. You know, we were good as friends, but I think she just got sick of my shit. You know, I was always high. I was always smoking the weed. And I really only kind of used her for her vehicle sometimes and for the sex. And don't get me wrong, I made sure it was good sex for her too. But it wasn't what Lisa wanted, and I understood that. So I gave her a hug and I said, I hope you're good, girl, you know? Hope you're good. A couple months later, I don't know, it was probably around the time of my birthday in March, you know, the time bomb had gone off. I was just getting sick of it. The physical labor, you know, lifting office doors all day, and just the mess, you know. Barb's house was such a mess constantly. Like, she very much did not know how to run a household, so I don't know, it felt like I was just picking up after her constantly, you know, and Nick didn't feel like he had to do much. Of course, he went to work too. So yeah, it was time to go. I quit my job. I started looking for other roommates, other places to go. When I had returned from Columbus, I sort of looked up my old gang, you know, and there were two guys that would always hang out in my cool room. They were like my brothers, Chad and Sam. So I said, hey, you know, I'm back. I'm looking for a place. My friend Chad, his parents had a house and they had recently moved out. So Chad's house became like a rental. This one right there. They had moved out. It was just Chad and his friend Sam. They had a third bedroom. And, you know, these guys were my brothers. They were regulars in my cool room with Amanda. And when I had to leave my cool room, Chad's house, that became the new cool room, you know? I don't know. It was a little bit different, kind of the same. Chad's house was down in South Grand Rapids, which was like pretty close to where, you know, my childhood home was. And without my childhood home anymore, without my grandma's house anymore, like this is my backyard, you know? Now it's got to be loud. Like, it's all quiet, but then all of a sudden, bam, I got an airplane, I got dogs. Here in the South Town, stuff's got to be crazy. So yeah, I felt like I had just, you know, accomplished the mission. I wanted to return to Grand Rapids to help out Barb and, you know, fix her situation. And I did. I helped her, you know, talk to her banker and got her this house and basically restarted her life. And I felt bad about what happened to Goofy, but there was not much I could do to fix that situation, you know? There was not much I could do to fix my own situation with Mandy or any of my other girlfriends. So Barb was good. She had Nick. They had a house, you know? She was working on the driver's license and the education and the birth control. It was all good. I said, girl, I love you. I don't want to clean up after you anymore. I don't want to do this. So, you know, I wished her well. And then I started over, kinda. I moved in with my friends, Chad and Sam, and it was almost like being back in the cool room. Like, just, Home is not walls, a door that locks, and a roof. Home is where your friends are. Home is where your family are. And Chad and Sam, they were like my family. So it was time for a new job. I had a new place. I looked up one of my other old friends. This guy's name is Ryan. If you guys remember Ryan, he and I are very similar. So Ryan is also an Aries and also the game master of his role-playing group. So we were both dominant Aries leaders. I said, Ryan, where are you working at, man? What are you doing? He says, oh, Bishop, I got a sweet job. I got this thing. So I'm a courier, and this company is called Airborne Express. Wow, and you just drive around all day? He says, yeah, man, you want a job? Come on, I'll get you a job. And it was just so easy, you guys, kind of like the introduction with Barb and Wendy across the street. It was like, this is my friend, he's cool. This is my friend, he needs a job. Bam, just like that. So I start a new job. I'm driving like a full-size van. I'm a courier. So a lot of my packages are just envelopes, you know, the big ones, but they've got people's paychecks inside. And when you walk into a Red Lobster on a Friday at noon, they're like, oh my gosh, Bishop, you made it. We're so happy. Do you want some Cheddar Bay biscuits? We got Cheddar Bay. They're fresh. They're hot. I'm like, oh, okay. Yep, I will take a handful. Other times it was paperwork for like the deed to someone's house, or someone bought a boat, or someone's inheritance paperwork. So they were happy to see me. And you know, every once in a while I'd get a big package, but it was like, what do they call those? A cooler. This was the cooler with a bunch of stickers on it, and it said organ transplant. And it had ice inside, and it was some person's liver or a heart or who knows. It was an urgent, you jump in the van, you stop and get some McDonald's first, and then you fly out to your destination, you know, you float. I loved it. If I was careful, I could take a little puff, working by myself, out there in the nothing, you know, driving around. I noticed that my friend Ryan, he had a coworker who was just a spicy little thing. She was, I don't know, something about her. She was cute, she was young, beautiful. Her name was Kelly. Here's Kelly. I remember one day I was standing outside smoking a cigarette with my friend Ryan, you know, talking about the job or talking about something. And Kelly kind of snuck up behind him. I don't think she meant to, but she lifted her foot right into Ryan's behind. And guys, my friend Ryan, he coughed a little bit, he dropped his cigarette, he fell down on the ground, and he was crying. And I was like, girl, what did you do? Oh my gosh. And she was, of course, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to kick you that hard. It was supposed to be just a little love tap. And Ryan's on the ground just coughing and vomiting. And I don't know, it was funny to watch them interact, you know. They were a funny couple. So I couldn't help it. I was like, Kelly, do you happen to have like a sexy older single sister? You know, like, here's Bishop, I'm single. Kelly says, yeah, I do. Oh, here's my number. I have a pager, you know, when you call my number, push in your digits and I'll call you back. You know, I'd like to hang out with you guys, smoke some green. Does your sister smoke? Yep. Guys, it felt sometimes like the universe would just push me in a direction and I would kind of just go willingly, you know? And again, I didn't have my computer, so I wasn't typing about all my angsty childhood trauma. This was just Bishop having a good time, you know? Just doing the thing. So one night I get a page and I call up the number and it's Ryan's girlfriend, Kelly. She says, hey, I'm at my big sister's house. Do you want to come by? Well, yeah, heck yeah, I'm free. So I jump in my car, fly over to her house, and wow. I thought Kelly was spicy when I met her big sister. Wow, this woman, her name is Raven. Raven had a tongue on her like you would not believe. She would cut you like a razor. and just call you all the names. Like, she knew all the names, but it was a funny sort of thing. It was a humorous, you know? So I was sort of attracted to her, but I also thought, wow, this one, this one might be a little too much for Bishop. I don't know. I mean, I like a good put down. I like clever humor, but wow, Raven, she took it to a new level, you know? And I don't know, we hung out in her basement, we smoked some green. I kept hearing noises in the floor upstairs. I said, Raven, you know, is somebody else here? She says, well, yeah, I've got kids. Oh, and your kids are upstairs? Like, how old are they? She says, oh, you know, they're like 2.5. She says, you want to see them? I guess. Like, I'm high as a kite. We've been smoking cigarettes down here. Like, doesn't the smoke go up? I don't know. They're used to it. So we went upstairs on her main floor, and she had one of those little child-proof gates that would like separate the living room from the rest of the place, you know. So her kids were very much free roam. They were like little animals. They were watching SpongeBob, playing with their toys, you know, and she had all of the electrical, what do you call those things? The little plastic parts that you stick in the electrical outlet so your kid doesn't come along and put his finger in there. It was child-proofed. It was almost like their little playground. And I looked at them and I was like, huh, okay. Funny stuff, you know? A lot funnier when you're smoking. I think I was happy for a little bit, you know? Every day was a party, every night was a party. I started seeing this thing though, this repeating trend where my roommates, my friends, they weren't the cleanest people. You know, like some people, I'm not very clean or neat, I don't know. I guess when you're in your early 20s and you're smoking and you're drinking and you don't really care about how clean things are, nobody wanted to clean the bathroom. You know, it's 3 guys, it's the bachelor pad. So for me, it wasn't a healthy environment. And my friends Chad and Sam, they had second shift jobs. They'd work at the gas station or the restaurant, you know, and my job was like first shift. I had to wake up early, which meant I had to go to bed early. And I had to go drive this van, you know, safely without falling asleep or crashing. So to me, I don't know, I was like, guys, I just gotta sleep, you know, when it's my time, it's gotta be sort of quiet, okay? And they didn't really understand, so there was some friction there, and I get it. I think right around September, I don't know, again, the 6 months, the time bomb, I moved out. I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I'm struggling. I can't seem to find good roommates. Can I get my place in the basement back? You know, is it okay? Like, I'm a different guy now, whole different Bishop. I've been through some stuff, I've learned some stuff. My dad said, okay. But you remember the rules? Yep. Bishop, are we gonna have to argue about the rules again? Nope. Are you gonna steal from me? And my dad had this checklist. It went, and I said everything I needed to say, and I believed it, you know? I didn't want more trouble. I just wanted to go to work, smoke some green, you know? Try to have a fun life. There was only one problem with my dad's house, and that was that he still didn't have a dryer that worked. So when it was time to do laundry, I don't know, I found I had a new friend. Raven, her basement, it was very much like the cool room, you know? She had a gang of friends, these neighborhood kids. Here, check them out. Does that look like a fun gang? I think because Raven was always in her backyard, always outside with her little kids, that the other neighborhood people, they saw her and they would walk up to her and say, hey Raven, how's it going? She'd be like, it's good. You want to smoke later? Yes. So if I brought a little bit of green, the good green, over to Raven's place, I could use her washer and dryer. I could smoke indoors. It was nice, guys. And you know, Raven and I would chat. I don't know. There was this thing that started to come around, you know, towards the end of 2000, It was called the internet. And if you had a computer, which Raven did, because, I don't know, her husband was a computer nerd. The motorcycles are out. Nice. It's almost spring. Yeah, there was this thing called a chat room. So Raven and I would we'd watch the chat room. We'd say funny stuff. We'd laugh. It was good. We started to have relations, and it was kind of cool because Raven's little sister Kelly, she was with my friend Ryan, and I was with Raven, and we would double date. We would all smoke, get really toasted, and then we'd have some really fun sex. So I guess, life wasn't all bad. I don't know. New Year's Eve of 2001, I was in my dad's basement shivering again, but my little car was still running. I still had the job that I liked, and I had kind of a girlfriend, but I don't know, guys, Raven and I, we weren't super compatible, okay? Raven is a Taurus. Taurus is like the bull, and Aries and Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. So can you imagine earth and fire mixing? So right around March 01, I don't know, I'm just really sick of being in my dad's basement again. I'm sick of being cold. I don't know, time for something new. So I thought, hey, right down the street is Barb's house. Let's check in on her, see how she's doing. So Barb and Nick are still good, still in the same place, I said, hey, is it possible I could rent a room from you again? I know what happened last time, but let's just try again, okay? And because I had parted on good terms, it was pretty easy. Barb's like, okay, why not? And Nick, I'd gotten along with him great, so I moved out of my dad's and back into Barb's for round 2. Ding, ding. Guys, it's pretty fair to say I bounced around in my 20s, That's just what you do, right? So another interesting thing happened. Raven, who I was still seeing off and on, kind of friendship, right? She had a brother who decided to get revenge on his stepfather. So Raven's brother snuck into his stepfather's home, stole his personal computer. He stole everything, all the power cords, the monitor, the speakers. And Raven's brother wanted to give it to Raven as a gift, Here, I can't keep this. I just stole it. And when I heard about this, I was like, oh my gosh, Raven, this is probably not a good idea. You're going to be in possession of stolen goods, and, this might not be hard to trace back to you. You've got kids, right? Why don't we do this thing? Why don't you give me the computer, and whenever I buy a big, giant pine cone-sized nugget of green, I will take some of that and I will give it to you and to your brother. It'll be like a payment plan. Raven says, well, okay, I've already got a computer, I'm good. And Raven's brother says, okay, as long as my stepdad doesn't have it anymore. So I moved back into Barb's and set up a computer. Barb had internet. Oh my gosh, you guys. It had been, I don't know, a couple years, maybe 3 years without a computer. So for me to be able to play video games, to write, to do my journal, it was pretty amazing. I think she liked being in my video. I don't know. There was this thing too that it just started. It was called an MMO. It stands for Massive Multiplayer Online. And if you and your friends had a computer, which both Barb and Nick had one, and now I had one, you could jump into this imaginary realm, this world, and you could play together. You could go kill monsters together, You could do all kinds of fun stuff. So the video game, one of its first of its kind, it was called The Realm. Very cool. Nick and Barb and I would smoke plenty of green, play The Realm together. I don't know. I was in heaven, Raven would come and visit once in a while. I'd go visit her once in a while. But I didn't want to go to my job that was way down in the southeast corner. now that I'm way up in the Northwest again. So I said, Nick, where are you working nowadays, man? He says, oh, I'm about to start this new job. It's a swimming pool place. Oh, a swimming pool? Yeah, I went down the street because I had to learn about the swimming pool in Barb's backyard. For that first year, it was more like a swamp. But I wanted to get it up and running, so I went into this swimming pool place and it said, now hiring. And I was like, okay. So get this, Bishop. You go to rich people's houses, you go in their backyard, and there's their swimming pool. And you clean it out, you turn on the garden hose, you spray some stuff, you check their filter, check their pump. You're all by yourself, you can smoke if you want, no drug test. I said, oh man, Nick, sign me up, right? Sign me up, yes. So once again, Nick and I were back to work, living together like brothers. It was awesome. We had Barb, she was happy. Life was good. When I wasn't playing the game with Barb and Nick, I don't know, I would do this chat room thing. It was very cool in the early days, you know? Like you could just go in there, pick a location. So, you know, I would pick Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then you just introduce yourself. You'd say, hey, I'm like a 24-year-old male looking for a female. And there'd be other females, they would be like, hey, here's me. So it's pretty weird. I met this woman, her name was Kim. Here's Kim. Beautiful, long brown hair, just stunning eyes. Her eyes were beautiful. And I don't know, I felt something. Like this was the first time since Mandy that I really felt it. So Kim and I became a thing, and Raven had a new boyfriend too. I forget his name, it wasn't important. But we would do the double date thing, you know. I found some mushrooms and all four of us would be tripping. Good times. Except we ended up back at Raven's place, and I don't know, Raven and her boyfriend, they went to bed and I was tired. It had been a day. And Kim decided she was gonna stay awake, you know? She didn't want to go to bed. I was like, hey, okay. There were some other friends in Raven's basement. I don't know. I trusted them, you know? But about a week later, one of her friends, this guy's name was Ben. Here's Ben. Yep. You know, he's a decent kid. He was young. But Raven says, hey, that night we were tripping, Ben convinced your girlfriend, Kim, to give him the bang bangs. And Kim said, okay. So Ben told everybody to keep it a secret. But you know, kids and secrets. So yeah, Bishop, Raven tells me this, your girlfriend cheated on you. And I was like, oh my gosh, how could this have happened? Like, wow. I had never cheated on a woman before. I didn't know what it felt like or what it was supposed to mean or what it was supposed to be like, but this programming from my mom when I was a kid, that if you did the sex wrong, bad, 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 no, no, no. So I went to Kim and I confronted her and I was like, hey, what happened? And she cried and she confessed and she said it was stupid. It was so stupid. I don't know why I did it. But I just couldn't forgive her, you know? My programming was, hey, if you cheat on someone, it's over. No forgiveness. Goodbye. And it broke my heart and I didn't know what to do with it, but I don't know, it sucked. It sucked so bad. I thanked Raven. I said, you know, I appreciate you telling me this. She said, yep, I'm here for you, you know, if you need a hug, if you need something else. I think it was around October of '01, after the swimming pool season had ended. My roommate Nick, one of my coworkers, introduced something different to Nick. This was like the white powder stuff. And at first, Nick would just take a little white powder and sprinkle it on top of the green that we would smoke. And it would give you kind of a different buzz. It was a little bit weird. He used to call it a corn dog. I don't know. It was special. It was a once in a while thing, but Nick started to crave it. I don't know. He kept doing it. He kept buying it. He got Barb to do it. And one day they started doing this thing called freebasing, where you take some aluminum foil and you take this white powder and you rub it all over and then you light it and then you inhale the fumes. And to me, this just looked a lot like the crack, you know? I said, whoa, I don't want to do that. No, no, no. This was very much like Danielle in Columbus. When the crack comes out and people start doing crack, it's time to walk out the door. So I grabbed all my stuff. I moved out of Barb's house again. I said goodbye, you know. It sucked, it hurt. I knew it was gonna happen. Barb had an allowance. She had disposable money. Excuse me. And here was the substance that, yeah, just bad. This is what happens at the end of the season, okay? It starts out as nice, beautiful white, and then it turns into gray, brown, sometimes black. It's nasty, but it is going away, so we've almost made it through. Guys, I was so happy. I was at such a high point, you know? I had my friends and the video games and a new computer, and life was good. And, you know, I didn't know how to feel about Kim cheating on me, but hey, you know, sometimes life happens, right? Maybe it was karma for what happened with Goof. I don't know. Where did I go after Barb's round 2? I didn't want to go back to my dad's. So back to Chad and Sam's round 2. Ding, ding, ding. Bounce, bounce, bounce. I was even able to go back to my old job at the Airborne Express. Well, okay. Airborne Express was kind of like an umbrella, and underneath was subcontracted companies. So I think there was 3 different companies. They all had different names. So when you quit from one, you could easily go across the building and apply with the other. So I got my courier job back, and I don't know, life was good to a point. Again, just the constant partying at Chad and Sam's, the mess. You know, I was doing the first shift again. I was waking up early. Really, the only bright spot I had was with Raven, you know. She was like my escape. And even if I didn't have to if I didn't have to use Chad's laundry, his washer and dryer, I would just grab some green and I would go hang out with Raven, you know. I remember she told me one time that she couldn't get pregnant. It's kind of a long story, but I believed her, and I was like, you mean no protection? Yay! If you're a 20-something guy and your girlfriend or your friend with benefits tells you that you don't need to wear protection, I was good with that, you know? So, I don't know. Life carried on, right? That's what it does. But at a certain point, how do I explain this? It's a good one. Hang on. Since returning from Columbus, Ohio, I don't know, I lived in the hippie house for a few months maybe, and I lived with Barb in her new house twice. I tried living with my friends Chad and Sam twice. And the final time that I could no longer stay with them, I went back to my dad's basement twice. So I don't know. It was tough for me to find a home, tough for me to be satisfied. The time bomb thing, a lot of reasons, you know. I couldn't change the crack. I couldn't make my friends, you know, respect my needs, right? Like I need to sleep. I don't know. So I think it was about June of 2002. Raven and I, we both sort of sat down one night and we said, you know what? This just isn't working. We're not really we're not helping each other here. You know, I know we've got this comfort thing going. You're looking for a guy, a new boyfriend that can father your kids. Her kids are like 4 years old now. Her twin son's 4 years old. You know, they need a new stepdaddy. You need a partner. You know, I don't want to be your partner. I don't want anything to do with kids. No, no, no. So we were like each other's crutch, you know, just helping each other get by, but never really, you know, making any progress. So we both sort of came up with this grand idea. Okay, here's our idea. Bishop, Raven, you get one night, one last night together. We'll get some big bag of green, a bunch of alcohol, and this is it. This is our goodbye. So it's okay, you know, this is how relationships, it happens, but we're gonna go out with a bang. So we smoked and we drank and we had endless amounts of love. You know, it's kind of weird when both parties understand that this is the last time, this is it. This is the last time you will kiss them. This is the last time you will taste their lips. This is the last time you will breathe into their mouth and they will breathe into yours. This is the last time she's gonna do that. This is the last time I'm gonna do this. And wow, Raven and I didn't really have the passion, but on that night, we had all the passion, you know? It lasted all night too, because neither one of us wanted to say goodbye, because that was it. As soon as you say goodbye, it's over. So I think we stayed up all night. The sun came up eventually, and I looked at her and I said, you know, it was fun, it was awesome, and I love you. And she said, I love you. And then I left, and I didn't look back, and I just thought, you know, it's just time for a new chapter, right? New chapter in the life of the bishop. I didn't think about Raven much anymore. I went to work, I was still a courier, still at the Airborne Express. I was living with my dad. I no longer had Raven to go to for my laundry needs. And yeah, we just, I don't know. I think it was about November, you know, maybe 4 or 5 months later, I get a page and I look at my beeper. I gotta look twice because it's Raven's number. So I go to my work phone and I call her and I'm like, hey. She says, hey. She says, I think we need to talk. And I'm like, no, we said we weren't gonna do this anymore. No more talking. She says, Bishop, we need to talk. She says, I think I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh wow, you know, who's the lucky guy? She says, well, I haven't been with anybody since you. Oh. Wait a minute. Yeah, we need to talk. She says, yeah, I think so. That's a good idea. Can you come over after work? I said, yep, I'll be there. Hey, Bishop, can you stop at the store, the pharmacy, and like grab one of those pregnancy tests, a pregnancy stick? And I was like, yeah, okay. Bishop, you know, maybe just grab 2, just in case. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was fun. It's not so cold out, which is awesome. I do want to say one quick shout out to my fan of the episode, fan of the month. Barefoot Beater, you know, like necklace beads. I see you. I hear you. You're not alone. Share your story. Guys, why not share your story? Leave a comment, okay? Tell me where I can find your stories. And if you're not making your stories yet, I'll see you next time. Ah!